It is, however, part of my desire and effort to bring zero-cost to consumer information about science and science-related tools to the general public. In keeping with that theme, I'd like to thank the sponsors of today's podcast. Our first sponsor is David. David makes a protein bar unlike any other. It has 28 grams of protein, only 150 calories, and 0 grams of sugar. That's right, 28 grams of protein, and 75% of its calories come from protein. This is 50% higher than the next closest protein bar. These bars from David also taste incredible. My favorite bar is the cake flavored one. Then again, I also like the chocolate flavored one, and I like the berry flavored one. Basically, I like all the flavors. They're all incredibly delicious. Now, for me personally, I try to get most of my calories from whole foods. However, when I'm in a rush, or I'm away from home, or I'm just looking for a quick afternoon snack, I often find that I'm looking for a high quality protein source. And with David, I'm able to get 28 grams of high quality protein with the calories of a snack, which makes it very easy to hit my protein goals of 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, and it allows me to do so without taking on an excess of calories. Again, I focus on getting most of my food from whole food sources throughout the day, but I typically eat a David bar in the late afternoon when I get hungry between lunch and dinner, sometimes also mid-morning if I get hungry then, and sometimes I'll use it as a meal replacement, although not a complete meal replacement. It can get me to the next meal. So if I need to eat in a couple...
See what we can get. All-rounders. Let's look at them. All-rounder Unite Selection Box. Okay. So you get Suicune, you can get Mega Gyarados, Mega Charizard. Yeah, a lot of them actually. Don't really care about Suicune though. See, Suicune is all the way up here, right? Suicune is all the way up here, surely. Where is it? Yeah, it's all the way up here.
Couple of hours, but I'm really hungry.
David, I can't kill anything. It's that simple. So, unless, I mean, with Unite, of course, but yeah, it's a bit different. I still have to switch some things around here. The aura is okay in jungle right now, also nothing to write home about necessarily, but also not the worst. Mioscarada in lane, he needs too much XP right now, but I think in jungle it's pretty decent. So, okay, but now, oh my god, this is scuffed looking. What can I put down it here, honestly? I mean, I feel like something of these things, right, are just too high though, for sure. Like, they don't have to be here, necessarily. Like, Zapdos in jungle is just not a thing, right? Let's do it like this. I think this looks nice. I think now I'm happy with my jungle tier list. As always, I mean, I could literally remove. But, I mean, they also got a good amount of buffs, right? If we go to Lapras, that is. Lapras, more damage reduction, more boosted healing, Bile Beam cooldown. The Ice Beam move speed is also very, very nice, of course. So, but I think I don't want to put Titan B+. Porygon is good, Snorlax easily S tier, Articuno, I feel like... he was nerfed as well again, right? I mean, I don't care that Trevenant does everything you want to defend do him. Also decent. Meganium, I think it's fallen off definitely. I don't know how high I should put it anymore, but I think somewhere here is totally fair. Into the A tier. I think that works well. Lissy, always strong. Sableye, kinda mid. Latias. Latias also good, also because Latios is meta, right? Just makes Latias meta instantly. Tuba always will be S tier, I feel like until this game has shut down into whatever it's called, maintenance mode, Tuba is gonna be just up there. Yeah, honestly, I don't want to talk too much like that support. Elgos obviously got a buff for some reason. Icream is also strong. Like, you can see all the supporters are in a very good spot. So, now we have one Pokemon left, which I have to add as a picture, because we don't have it in the tier list yet, so we have this right here. Crocodile. Yeah. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I think I'm gonna put it on here. And it...
Cowbell Energy Amplifier.
Today is the 4th day of the 5th anniversary event. Then that's still good. I labeled Zero Aura as a free license. Your only options is a license that costs 980 license points. Then that's still good. I labeled Zero Aura as a free license because Zero use blue tag holoware. Because blue tag holoware is more expensive than green tag holoware. Here is the Speedster holoware tier list. There are 3 blue tag holoware that have 2 SFX or 2 effect, which is movement and KO effects. And there are some blue tag holoware and green tag holoware that are labeled as special. Special holoware can only be obtained through event or limited time shop sales. Do not choose those holowares that I labeled as no, because you can easily get them in shop ticket exchange. However, always priority to choose the holoware for the Pokemon you always play, because you will be happy with that. The Anniversary Prize Machine event is back, and this time for the Battle Pass Season 33 Captain Style Gyarados Collection. This Gyarados Prize Machine runs for 60 days, and you can get some free stuff with the extra 100 Anniversary Balls. You won't get the Gyarados holoware for free, even with the extra 100 Anniversary Balls. For the trainer outfits that cost 30 points, you can only get them for free if you are super lucky to get 10 points in a single throw, or get 3 and 5 points several times. To be honest, it's very hard, because average points you will get only around 16 to 25 is very hard, because points. You can only get them for free if you are super lucky to get 10 points in a single throw, or get 3 and 5 points several times. To be honest, it's very hard, because average points you will get only around 16 to 25 points from the 14 free balls per day if you don't get any big points. Items that you can easily get for free with 100 Anniversary Balls are green tag holoware Mammothline, dark purple contact lenses, blue hair color, snapshot background, frames, stickers, and some emblems. Pass Season 33 pack. And this time for the Battle Pass Season 33 Captain Style Gyarados Collection. This Gyarados Prize Machine runs for 60 days, and you can get some free stuff with the extra 100 Anniversary Balls. You won't get the Gyarados holoware for free, even with the extra 100 Anniversary Balls. For the trainer outfits that cost 30 points, you can only get them for free if you are super lucky to get 10 points in a single throw, or get 3 and 5 points several times. To be honest, it's very hard, because average points you will get only around 16 to 25 points from the 14 free balls per day if you don't get any big points. Items that you can easily get for free with 100 Anniversary Balls are green tag holoware Mammothline, dark purple contact lenses, blue hair color, snapshot background, frames, stickers, and some emblems. Please remember that you can only use 10 Anniversary Balls per day. You don't have to use it every day because you have plenty of time. And the Anniversary Balls can't stack. They will reset the next day, as well as the points you have earned.
If you're ambitious but not sure what to do, I'm going to share 6 principles, really just actions that have helped me get to where I want. And these are the same 6 things that allowed me to go from having only $1,000 to my name and living on the gym floor to now having portfolio companies that last year did north of 250 million a year. And the reason I'm making this video is because I'm on a mission to get the next generation of men and women to make their first $100,000. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And I think that if you can participate in the economy, you will believe in capitalism. And I think that will set up the next generation for much bigger and better things. So let's just start with principle number 1, which is build capacity. And so what to do when you're not sure what to do is you build capacity. So for example, if you don't know what you're going to do tomorrow, you should go and bet on time today when you're not sure what you're going to do. Still, it might as well be rested. That's building capacity. You can get in shape when you don't have dates lined up. Like you don't have one lined up, but it can help you when the opportunity strikes. You can save money when you're not sure where you're going to invest because at least you'll have the money so that when the investment comes, you'll have the opportunity to take action. And so the thing about opportunities is that they present themselves to everyone and only people with capacity can both recognize.
We actually have real.
Percent, 20%, or 25% research gauge. All these values have a 33% chance of occurring, and as I said earlier, if you're a free player, you will complete this event in 10 to 15 days. Because there, you'll be able to claim your Evelta license in 10 to 15 days, depending on how actively you completing the missions. This event is quite simple compared to DICE event. You need to complete daily, weekly, and special missions to earn research. You will use this research to complete your thesis. There are 4 theses, and each thesis requires 100% research gauge. Every time you complete a thesis to 100%, you can claim a reward. And to claim a Evelta permanent license, you must complete all theses, because the Evelta license is in the thesis 4. Every time you do a research, you will get 15%, 20%, or 25% research gauge. All these values have a 33% chance of occurring, and as I said earlier, if you're a free player, you will complete this event in 10 to 15 days. Because to complete all 4 theses, you'll need around 20 research, if the average percentage you gain is 20%.
There is a final judge of all startups. Like someday, all will be accounted for. Okay, there is a reckoning for all startups, right? And that's either when you go public and the market gives you a value, you may not like it, but that is a reckoning. Or it's you get acquired, and that is there will be a number there, and someone will come up with that number.
All right, this is Dalton plus Michael. This is a throwback episode, and today we're going to be talking about the ethics of the startup game. Maybe a topic that doesn't come up enough. What do you think, Dalton?
This was a recurring theme in all of our talks to the YC batches over the year, which is there's some basic rule of the game, and one cool thing about Silicon Valley and the tech industry is you can fail, and you will be held up and celebrated by the community, right? Like it's okay if your startup doesn't succeed.
It's not unethical to fail.
Yeah, that's part of the business. You earn respect from your peers. But we would always say in our advice to YC companies, there are rules, and if you cheat people or lie or follow bad business practices, you will be like you are out of the business basically. Like it is very hard, if not impossible, to recover from that, and that is not the way to fail.
Over the years, it's become painfully obvious that we're in a trust-based business, and I think the major mistake that founders make is they over fetishize the next milestone. I almost want to kill this analogy that's been popular, which is like, oh, a startup, first you're pushing the rock uphill, and then it's like you're pushing it down, you're following it downhill, and that's the easy part. I think there's kind of a bit of a mentality that like, do whatever you can to get to the easy part, because then it's going to be easy, and then like whatever, we'll fix it later. Where like when we talk to our friends who are running massive successful companies, I think they haven't found the easy part yet. Like I'd argue it's maybe a better analogy is pushing a rock uphill, but your legs are getting stronger. When you believe this myth that like, oh, if I just raise that round, then everything will break open. Or if I just do CRR, then everything will break open.
Yeah, it's like then you can lies become big lies. Right?
Exactly.
Like you start by the little things, and then to keep up, you just dig deeper and deeper and deeper till you can't recover, right?
Yeah. And I think that's the tricky thing is that, we're both founders. I remember there was a moment where, it was like, I'm pitching an investor and I'm giving them our metrics, right? Like there's no like third party audit on how many unique visitors we have. Like, but then, my next thought was this is that ultimately I'm being graded on how much value I'm creating. Like ultimately there's an accounting. When that ultimate accounting happens, if it shows up that like, oh, this is all smoke and mirror, there's no reward at the end of that tunnel. Like, so it's like
it's all downside, right?
It's all downside. But it's weird because like, yeah, maybe it's fun on that road, but if the end of the road is like no payoff, Is the road like is that like what like?
It's not just no payoff; it's like career in
Negative payoff. Yeah, exactly.
It's- I think if you look at the history of the tech industry, there's like a culture thing to talk about. I think that historically, engineering, not software, let's talk about engineering. The deal with engineering is you had to build things that wouldn't kill people, like bridges and buildings and stuff. And so I think it was built heavily into an engineering mindset that like details matter and not hurting people matters, and that's literally the job. Like
That's the final accountant. Someone's gonna walk on this bridge.
yeah, and I think it's like pretty well grounded to you. I think the other thing going on is, not to make generalizations, but spectrum-y type people tend to like rules. I guess I'm one of those people, but if you believe in logic and reason, and the whole way you see the world is through an engineering mindset of like strict rules and like everyone has to follow rules and like rules are important. Historically, engineering is like a good place for those types of people because you can put numbers on everything and you can make sense of the world and there's laws of physics and there's all these rules where everything makes sense in a way that other parts of society may be a little bit trickier. You still with me?
I agree.
The technology industry was seen as a place for people that feel that way and think that way and are aligned with everyone agreeing to a code of conduct and agreed rules and numbers being super factual.
Yes. Yes.
And so I think there's always been the tension as money flows into the tech industry, that the more money and lucrative this stuff gets, the more it attracts people that would not be in this industry if there were no money in it, right? Because there's some people that are like engineers, whether physical engineers or software engineers, they'd be doing this even if this was like making no money, right? Because they like it. And there's some people that are 100% only doing this versus whatever because, right? Yeah. In the 60s, it was starting a rock band, right? Like there's a lot of people, if you're an ambitious young person, in the 60s, you started like a rock band. And a lot of people went far with that. Starting a startup is like something you do if you're an ambitious young person. And so where I'm going with this is that in this cultural tension, I think a lot of the true nerds are very angry and upset when they see what they feel is an injustice. And again, I guess I'm one of them. Like it bugs me too. Like, I'm not level with you. And that folks with a different perspective might just be like, oh, this is how everything works. And it reminds me a little bit of, I don't know, like high school, where there's some people who are like, yeah, cheating is just part of the game. Like, of course we cheat. Like, everyone cheats. And I don't know, man. Like, I always just found it kind of a drag to see some of that influence coming into the tech industry. And like, last thing for me on this point, I noticed it has everything to do with market cycles. And when the hotter things get in terms of money, the sketchier things get. And when there's no heat on the tech industry, this is less of a problem.
I think that investors also have a role here. It's so funny. I remember reading something where some young investor would begin a lot of praise, and some snarky Twitter person was like, well, those companies haven't even exited yet. And then the reply was like, well, how do we grade people if it takes really, really long time? I feel like investors can get caught up in these short-term competitions. Did I get the hottest company on demo day? Like, how many of my companies have raised a Series A? How fast do they raise a Series A? How fast is my fastest company growing from 1 million to 10 million in ARR? Because the longer competitions take so long. And I think that unfortunately, when early stage investors get into this mindset, it can help affect the community with the mindset that these short-term things matter. And I don't know about you, Dolphin, but like, man, I've been advising startups for so long now. Time separates everything out. And like, the fads go away, things that don't create value go away, valuations become irrelevant, the amount of money you raise, how famous you are, like all those things get fine. The only thing that's like the core and lock is how much value you create. And like sometimes I kind of wish investors would have that longer term mindset as opposed to wanting to split the long game up into short games that probably don't matter or not indicative of the long game at all.
Sort of to their defense, they're just worried about their career and their next promotion and whether they're, like what we're saying works for us, but if you're like a junior VC and your entire career is based on if you're funding winners, otherwise you're out. From the investor perspective, it's hard for us to say they should do bad things for their career by not hyping up the companies they invested in. Right? They're just trying to show that they're good investors and they're trying to make their portfolio companies look good. And so I understand the incentives are a little tricky there, but to reiterate what you've been saying, there is a final judge of all startups. Like someday, all will be accounted for. Okay, there is a reckoning for all startups, right? And that's either when you go public and the market gives you a value, you may not like it, but that is a reckoning. Or if you get acquired, and that is there will be a number there, and someone will come up with that number. And so, at the end of the day, all the numbers between when you start and when you end are a little bit made up. And so you should be worrying about your reckoning value, which is how you articulate the value you're creating, which is a real thing, and not fake vanity stuff. Like that stuff's not real.
I agree. I don't want to be on a high horse here. It is hard, and during a heavy buzz game, it's hard. My parting piece of advice is the advice I often give to founders. It's like when they see something blowing up, it's so often I'll be in office hours. I'm like, oh, well, these guys, they're blowing up. Like, should we chase them? Like, da 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 da. I have not seen games won or lost in 6 months, and so it's like don't use some short-term excuse to justify cheating, bending the thing, like cooking the books. Like, don't use that. Because you're overreacting to something that is probably going to change, and that overreaction is extremely dangerous. Like it could be career-ending. So like, don't overreact and like destroy people's trust in you over something that's probably not the end of the world.
I worry a lot about peer stuff. So I think a lot of why we used to talk about this in YC, and I guess why we're making this video, is that you can say, oh, these guys, they're full of crap. They're just saying this, but all the founders I know are exaggerating their numbers and lying to investors. And that sucks if that's what you, sorry for you. Sorry to hear that. If you feel like everyone's doing it. Yeah, like that sucks. You should get better friends. And then two, again, I really mean this. I know the numbers of a lot of the most successful YC companies, and they really did go public. And Michael can attest to this too. They're real. These are real companies. Whatnot's numbers are real, and Brex's numbers are real, and Reddit's numbers are real. Like this is audited. I can't stress enough that the truly successful big late stage companies are doing something real.
It's like cheating on like a practical test where you're learning a skill, but then you actually have to go out there. Like, okay, we think you know how to build a house now. You cheated on all the tests for carpentry. We're now sending you out there to build a house. Oh, your house doesn't work. It's like, what did cheating get you in the end? Like, if there's going to be a final accounting, cheating ain't going to help. I think in this environment, for the founders who are kind of holding the line, we want to say we have your back. Like, create long-term value.
You have a place in this industry. We respect you. Everyone respects you, and your integrity is the most valuable thing you can have. And you should never compromise on that. Like, that's it. That's the game.
No, that's the game. Great chat, Dolphin.
Cool. All right. Thanks.
The number of founders I talked to who basically said some version of, we're not growing as fast as Cursor, so therefore we should pivot or do another idea. And when you look, you're like, you have the best product in your category. Like, for some reason, I feel like sometimes founders kind of think startups are just kind of fungible. It's like, oh, I could make DoorDash, or I could make like GitLab. And it's like, that's not been my experience. Like... This is Dalton plus Michael. Today, we're talking about a topic on every founder's mind. So Dalton, I'm not growing 10x year over year. That means I should shut my company down and go to a job at Google, right? Because I saw on Twitter that investors will only invest in me if I get to.
Yeah, I think Andreessen put out a video saying if you don't have that, your company is bad. Or yeah, I forget what they said.
If I were to parody it, because I don't remember exactly, it's like if I don't have $1 million ARR in the first week, it's just like, it's over for me, and like my life prospects are bad now. I'm not gonna marry or have kids. I felt like that was great marketing, by the way. Like, as an aside, like
rage bait marketing in practice.
Everyone's talking about A16Z now, right?
I don't know if that's a
look. All media is good media, right?
Okay.
So, anyways. Let's try to unpack this. What's going on? Companies are growing faster than we've seen in the B2B SaaS era, for sure. Maybe not actually what we saw in the consumer era, but we can that aside a little bit. But certainly that's happening. What's going on?
I think we should try to steelman both extremes here. So let's talk about the growth is real side of the coin. Well, if you go look at the App Store, OpenAI has been number one in the App Store for the past couple of years. Right now, I think Sora is number one, which is also OpenAI. And holy cow, is the revenue growth real and the consumer growth real of AI tools and B2B tools that are using the APIs is real.
Well, and you're saying from the revenue side, from the product side, the OpenAI product is 10x better than anything that existed remotely similar to it 5 years ago.
Imagine if you had a time machine and you gave someone access to this and they would just be like cooking, right? It's like pretty good, right? It's like now everyone has it.
Like giving someone Google in like the late 80s.
Yeah.
So that's on the plus side. On the minus side, what's going? Like,
I'm quoting someone. I forgot where I read it, but it's sort of like these days annual recurring revenue is often not annual nor recurring nor revenue. So every aspect of the term is wrong. Basically, you see a lot of creative accounting where people are reselling API calls to Anthropic. They're upside down on it. They're multiplying the numbers by 12 to make an annual number. Have it be non-recurring. It's actually just run rate revenue. There's always like bullshit creative accounting going on.
Let's go down to that like so much deeper. Okay, right. So it's like, all right, I'm running a service that has a monthly subscription. Annualizing that is an estimate because I can cancel it.
That's correct.
I'm running a service that has like a usage rate, like AWS, where like I can pull all of my files from S3 tomorrow and never pay Amazon another cent. Turn on ARR is a little hokey. I don't want to name names, but there are a large number of products that YC founders use that I've spoken about, and they say things like, if I were to pay for the tokens to do this directly with OpenAI or Claude, it would cost this. This product charged me this divided by 2. I like using AI. Why not get a 50% discount per token?
So, point being, there's a lot of creative accounting for how you define growth rates.
Yes.
There's people that are, maybe you have an LOI, maybe you have like a email. Oh, we're going to definitely use your thing, and then you count that as ARR.
Yep. Big pilots. I definitely seen like impressive logo on website, dig in, and it's like, it's a big pilot. It's $1 million pilot.
Yeah.
But like, I've seen situations where they're doing pilots with 6 companies. So the logo's on 6 different. And it's like, is that an enterprise deal? Is that like a locked in scalable thing? Or was that just kind of we're demoing it and seeing what's going on?
Yeah. And so the point is the following. Are there startups that are actually growing at 5x or 10x, greater than 5x every year, 10x every year? Yes.
Especially at small scale.
Definitely. Yes. Are there startups that go from 0 to $1 million ARR in some form or another faster than we've seen in the past? Yeah. Yes. And I think partially we've talked about this before, but it's because big companies are willing to purchase this stuff. And it used to be really hard to get a big logo.
Yeah. And they don't mind spending money.
Yeah.
Things see value, they don't mind spending money.
Yeah. So that's real.
Yes.
But I think if you're a founder and you're depressed and you're like ready to shut down your company because you're only growing 6x year over year, don't do it. or like just like A16Z. That's just like self-defeating bad memes. I think the best way to think about this from an investor perspective is that you're going to be judged relative to your direct peers. And so let's say that you're doing voice AI, vertical voice AI. You are going to be judged based on how fast the other vertical voice AI companies are growing. Because if you're an investor, like I'm running a Series A firm, you're picking. I'm looking at a lot of companies that are building in the space. They've got competitors, but they're comparables. And yeah, I am looking on a relative basis how the companies are doing compared to each other. But I'm also taking the time to dig into how real the contracts are. I'm digging into if the product is good. Like there's all this nuance that as an investor that I would dig into. Yes. And so the way I would extrapolate this as a founder is realize who your comparables are, realize who you're going to be judged against, and if you want to be able to keep raising, be better than average.
I love that you're talking about these comps because the number of founders I talked to basically said some version of, we're not growing as fast as Cursor, so therefore we should pivot or do another idea. And when you look, you're like, you're not even in a space that could support this level. Like, like you sell enterprise software, it's not self-serve. Like, how would you be able to grow as fast? Like, or you're growing, you have the best product in your category. Like, why would you care about Cursor? It's a completely different category. And for some reason, I feel like sometimes founders kind of think startups are just kind of fungible. It's like, oh, I could make DoorDash, or I could make like GitLab. And it's like, that's not been my experience. It's like, you probably couldn't have made either, but like, it's probably much more likely to have made one than both. And so I think when people don't look at the comps, that's when they can psych themselves out. I also think that there's a bit of a question about what phase are we in? I think you and I have this kind of really interesting perspective because we've seen multiple cycles now because we're old as fuck. And like, I think that we just experienced very late stage B2B SaaS, which I would argue is like, at least I found fairly depressing. But like, it was, the technology hasn't changed for years, right? And now we're in this kind of probably a cycle that to us would feel like early web apps or early mobile apps. And I think sometimes people don't understand like how little things have firmed up yet. Like when the game's early, like, well, it's hard to predict what will have staying power. It's hard to predict what will have network effects. And I am fully expecting to be surprised. I know that's a weird way to think about it. Yes. Yeah, I don't trust my ability to predict what is enduring and what isn't. It's kind of like, do you remember the bet that Sam made where he was like, these YC companies together will be worth like X billion dollars? And if you look at the list of companies, there's some really good stuff in there. I think Stripe was on the list. But then there was like Teespring. And like, it's because I remember at the time, taking off, Stripe and Teespring seemed like equally good startups to me. And so even when you're completely in the know, it's hard to predict what's going to be sticky and what's going to be the enduring company. I love that you said expect to be surprised because like if we think back through 20, 25 years in tech, how many name brands have we seen just fucking, remember Palm? Yeah. Yahoo was one of the biggest companies in the world. And now it's just like this like ad tech stub. That's a different thing. Yeah. AOL, Netscape, like there's so many examples. And what's funny is it's like, when you think about some examples, it wasn't they're gonna win. It was like the game was declared over. Yeah. Like by the time Google was going, Yahoo was already declared the winner. Yep. And it was like the biggest and most important internet company. Literally. Yeah. And then somehow it unwon. Because there is no kind of like permanent winner. Except Microsoft. But I think this is what, when founders discourage themselves, like, man, just take a look at some of the like dinosaurs. And like you might realize something that looks great today, you have no idea what the shelf life is. And again, for the record, I have no idea how sticky Cursor is versus Claude Code and stuff. I mean, again, we'll make investments on stuff like this, but if you feel like, okay, Dalton, bet your life on what's going to happen and what's sticky. At this phase, I have no idea. It's like the dumbest middleman. I don't know what's going to stay. To me, I think like the lesson I learned from YC in these phase, fund smart people and just see what happens. Yeah, smart people think about and like lean back. And like maybe my takeaway from more later stage SaaS was like the variance is a little bit less. Can't predict necessarily who's going to win, but the variance in outcomes is way less. Whereas now, how do we know that we know how to even use the tools we have right now? It's like I always talk about this example of like how long did it take us to squeeze the most out of mobile phones? How long did it take us to squeeze the most out of the web browser? Like the idea that a new model drops and we know the best way to extract value out of it is like the biggest joke ever. Yeah. And maybe the most positive or actionable thing from hearing this like, oh, everyone's growing faster than me is I did see a couple of companies apply to Standard Capital in their last funding cycle where it was a company that had been around 2 or 3 years and it wasn't really growing fast. And so they did like a crazy pivot 9 months ago and it totally worked. Okay, that was pretty smart. Does that make sense? Like I saw people do AI pivots that were well thought through, even though they're 2 or 3 years in their startup. And I asked them, well, why did you do this? And they're like, well, we weren't growing fast enough. Okay, that's fair game. I think this has been a bit of a, and we'll see how it works out, but I've definitely seen people who like, I would describe as had some interesting insights, but poor tools as the B2B SaaS thing kind of came to a close, where like with AI, they can create way more value for the customer. So like, oh, like, yeah, we got this contract with the customer and like, we can do this much. And then we wake up and it's like, oh, it turns out we can do this much for our customer. Oh, now they want to talk to us more. Like, oh, we're getting meetings we weren't getting before. Oh, we're making them more money. Like, and it's like, yeah, you got better tools. Like, get back in the game, you got better tools, right? It's like, you got better paths, go get hard now. I think that anyone who's discouraged is like, man, better tools are coming out every day. This is a great time to be doing it. Don't get discouraged by something. Don't be discouraged and don't be accepting of slow growth. Exactly. Be inspired. With great tools, you should be able to go faster. All right. Great chat. All right. Thanks, Michael. Thank you.
2人真的是做梦了跟做梦的碰在一起，写了一套剧本，要干。
Think about how much of our job at YC has been decoding VC speak into English.
Yes.
Any words that aren't yes is a no, but like with all this like extra accoutrements on the edges. If you get an email and there's like lots of words in it, that's a no.
Yes. Hello, this is Dalton plus Michael, and today we're going to talk about Standard Capital, the new fund by Dalton and PB. As a kind of 30-second preview, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you decided to start this fund and why is it different?
I think to start with, as you know, I give a lot of advice over the years as a YC partner on pivots.
Yes.
And one of the things I try to do when giving someone advice about pivot is I try to imagine of all ideas this person can work in the world, where do they have the most unfair advantages? Where do they have the best network? Like I believe that every person has like a perfect idea, and that my job is to try to pull out of any founder what their ideal idea is.
I've stolen that line maybe 100 times.
Yeah,
maybe 100 times. It's helpful, especially in the sea of I could do anything.
Yeah, there's too many choices.
Too many choices.
But if you think about it this way, everyone has one really good idea. And so,
by the way, I love that too because it's kind of like in a really hard competition, you want to play games you're good at.
Yes.
And like the world is a really hard competition. It's like,
yeah.
Okay.
And so this is an idea that I crafted very specifically for this founding team, which is PB, myself, and Brian Bird.
Yes.
And kind of the idea is to take a lot of what makes YC work at the seed stage and apply it to the Series A. The way I like to explain this is 20 years ago, I raised a seed round.
Yep.
And when I raised a seed round, I had to get a lead investor.
Yep.
I had to get a price round term sheet.
Yep.
I had to sell 25% of my company. Yep. I had to give up a board seat, and it took 7 months
for a seed round.
And Michael, let me be honest. It was a miracle. Like, I'm so thankful. No, I mean, I really mean this.
Yeah.
Like when I think back, I'm like, how did I get that done? Like I think I was just lucky. Yeah. It was so hard.
When you were doing it coming out of the 01 craziness. Yeah.
It was really hard, and it was basically a miracle that I got it done.
Yep.
And so when you compare that to today, where there's YC, the YC invented the safe.
Yes.
There's this really vibrant ecosystem of angel investors that are used to taking risks on younger founders, on technical founders.
Yes.
Like it's like totally different. So a lot of my experience of raising a seed round, not applicable, not relevant in any way to founders. Conversely, I also raised a Series A 20 years ago, and it was like I had to get warm intros to people. I put them in my CRM. I had to go on coffee dates to get to know people and go through this complicated process.
Love those coffee
I love, you know me. I love
coffee dates with random investors.
Oh, yeah, that's like, I love that stuff.
Go my calendar.
and then the crazy thing about the process that I remember, and I'm sure this still stings you,
Yeah.
is where you would spend all this time with people over weeks or months, and they would like want to go out to dinner and be your best friend and talk about how great you were.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, we're definitely coming in. And then they would like pass at the very end.
Often silently.
They would ghost you.
Yes.
Or they would be like, oh, this is just a perfunctory, like we're definitely in. And then you would get like the very weird pass at the end after literally months of time and effort. And it was crushing, and it was a huge time waste. And I felt horrible because I wasn't working on my startup when I was doing these fundraisers. It was at fundraising.
Well, and to that point, I was told like this was an important part of being a founder, but I always found it a little confusing.
When you weren't adding any value.
My company was not getting better.
Yeah, the company was getting worse.
It's like, here's a side quest, and then you need money. But like, I feel like that was a bit of a lie. Like, oh, this side quest is going to help you with your company. It's like,
yeah,
no, it's going to give me money.
Part of why I liked YC is PG was the only person who was honest about this in his blog post.
Yes.
Which is like, yeah, fundraising is a waste of time. Don't do it.
Yes.
Like, do it as short of an amount of time as possible. Yes. This is like core in the YC Bible.
Yes.
Is this stuff.
Yes.
Anyway, so to complete the thought, Michael, that was all what I remember. Guess what? It's the same now. Like all of the advice, all of my experience as a founder raising an A is precisely what I still hear as a YC group partner on what it's like to raise an A, which is like, oh, you get this inbound from people and they act like they're really interested, but then you get into these really long, complicated processes. And most of the time, it's a lot of very complicated, flowery words, which mean no.
Yes.
Think about how much of our job at YC has been decoding VC speak into English.
Yes.
And again, I'll tell the audience.
Always yes and no.
Yes, tell the audience. If it's not any words that aren't yes, is a no. But like with all this like extra accoutrements on the edges, okay? Like if there's lots of words, if you get an email and there's like lots of words in it, that's a no.
Yes. It's so funny because it's like a plate full of garnishes.
Yes.
And just like
There's just a no in the middle of it. There's just a no in the plate.
But they serve me this thing. Why would they spend so much time?
They must be really interested. Like, no, I don't. That's just a no. That's just a regular no.
So the process is still awkwardly / maybe needlessly painful.
Hey, look, if we want to humanize the investors on the other side of the table, this is just how it's always been done. So I would argue it's.
I don't think they're evil.
Yeah, but I'm
That's
saying
the word awkward.
it's the process.
see
It's been the
yourself.
process since the 1980s. And so when Steve Jobs was right.
You can't see yourself. 你每次都看不见他自己。变没了。来胖。很胖很臭，很胖很臭。
子要走的抗中路线，他为了抗中，他去拉拢印度，他去签了这么多的合约，所以未来日本会不会有很多东西会变成
raising money for Apple Computer. This is the same process that he used in the 1980s. Well, let's absolve them. VCs have to go to other investors to raise money, precisely. And so, needless to say, it's a little bit easier, especially if you don't have a stellar track record, to just say I'm doing it like almost.
Yeah, why would you
want
want to do something different? That's like the worst thing you could do.
Yeah, especially in an asset class that seems like it's working and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and so that's the context, which is look, we saw what made YC work. PB was at the second demo day as an angel investor.
We should probably introduce PB.
Yeah, you should say who
Yes.
PB is. Yeah. So PB Paul Buchheit.
那第二块呢，就是有俄罗斯，然后还有欧洲部分、非洲，第三块是中国的部分，也包含了亚非欧，然后东亚、东南亚。那你发现，那日本被归类在哪里呢？抱歉，日本就被川普归类在第三块，就是中国这边。所以呢，日本媒体就很生气啊！日本对美国这么忠诚，川普要把日本划给中国。好，这只是一个川普最近他自己想象的部分啊。好，不过事实上就是日本有没有动作？日本也有动作哎。请教说他们帅将军，日本保安局透露，在所谓的川普经济区前几个月是在那边喊口号，哎，日本真的开始动作了。他说展开一个调查活动，测量船员的破船计划。那当然，中国联邦人起来，警船多次要求停止作业。但日本的官方长官就说了，中方的要求不可接受。中国外交部更硬，国家会直接说能否尊重中国核心利益，停止干涉中国内政呢？好，那从这边来看，中国没有动作，那我中国大陆就展现给你看，什么叫做军舰刷屏。首先，我们先带大家来看6月30号这一艘东莞舰领悟做一件事情，日本要很小心，穿越了。动了西太平洋，你会想说，这个消息我们常常看见啊。对，因为中国大陆已经把这个地方当做突破第一岛链的一个，这就是我家门口，我已经开出了一条海上的路径了，宫古海峡。抱歉，日本已经守住了，而且呢，最近有多艘的军舰在日本的周边给它。虽然非常讲马杀鸡，好，首先呢有什么样的船舰呢？我们一一来破解。3艘052D，这是导弹驱逐舰；2艘导弹驱逐舰，1艘052D，2艘054A。所以就让我觉得，哇塞，这么多艘军舰在西太平洋到底都在做什么？而且呢，都是瞄准着日本的这一些突破第一岛链的通道，这很明显在给日本下马威吧。
什么说胖，很胖，很胖，很胖，很胖。
discourse is focused on U.S.-China relations, and we have to address the question as what basically what's the role of the United States in the century of information that the Chinese talk about. And as you know, under the Boxer Rebellion, the Americans didn't really fight China. But at the same time, the U.S. insisted on most favored nation treatment and joint settlements in Shanghai and so on and so forth. So how is the U.S. role regarded by Chinese historians when they look at the century of information? But at the same time, as you know, the U.S. was also very generous and contributed money for the establishment of Tsinghua University. So how we characterize Chinese attitude towards the Americans in this century?
I think I'll get Vaporeon. Vaporeon.
Là, này được chất số.
To Professor Wang Ganggu. As you know, last week we covered the period of the century of humiliation, its impact on China relations. Today we are going to go beyond the century of humiliation and cover the period from the establishment of the People's Republic of China in 1949 till today. And I'm going to begin by asking Professor Wang Ganggu about the truly major war that US and Chinese forces fought against each other, which was the Korean War from June 25, 1950 to July 27, 1953. So the first question I'm going to ask you, Ganggu, is could this war have been avoided, and what damage did this war do to US-China relations?
比嘎比嘎。好像 Magnolia 不会叫比嘎，比嘎比嘎比嘎。他就你不会这样子回答啊？
when you say China had stood up, As you know, Henry Kissinger made a surprise dramatic visit to Beijing in July 1970. He was 40 years old then. I'm sure he made an impression. Just asking this from memory. How do you picture historical necessity?
呢度未，佢都係未嘅嚇，呢度咁咩錢？我太晚起了點。哎，帅哥起床了？
干嘛？
没有吃鸭肉了？
没有。
吃不完没关系，等下放冰箱去，因为它有的留到冰箱去，所以我拿出来。昨天西瓜有吃是吧？
啊。
上次是吃太多，我又买一个，星期三又非常热。你买分散买的对。
干嘛？
星期三又非常热。要10天左右，都是25度。我菜刚换煮了，出去。那他偷走的了噻。係咪好啲啊？
有
英話定啊？成日跳。啲跳，看你回過頭愛未？要不要？来
不
吃一个。
要，不吃，一直给我吃，都不热。
不热也吃一个。
不要。
吃了变成病痛，不是不能说，吃了不能说病，吃了变开心的痛。对，先放进去，因为过2天又星期三又30度，我儿子。为什么天气会变这么热呢？现在？ 以前在布拉本都没穿过那个长袖，短袖。都退灯换，主换。又要来。台历来点出来就退灯换。大海力有好处，也有好处，就是它分开会站在一起。
is equal to 100,000 pence. And that in some way to help confirm the Chinese.
Mama. Misunderstandings about the political system. So, thank you very much for joining us on these discussions and hope you enjoy this call. Thank you.
One pass can change a game. One transfer can change a future. That's why Remitly makes money transfer simple and reliable. Helping you keep your world connected and stay close to the things that matter. Remitly, send money worldwide.
Thank you.
家务战败，人民元被烧，这些百年国上只是买起政权的耻辱，不是中国人的耻辱。相反，对一向推翻百姓的中国人来说，这还是件好事，证明朝天是没救了。王克武这老头的说法是极为荒谬的，他所站的视角完全忽视了中国人民的感情，他甚至美化了日本和西方青年者对中国人民的伤害啊，就令很多中国人会委屈。接着一事，现在我说一下自己的看法。大清王朝统治者虽然是满族，对吧？但满族也是中华民族的一部分。就算中国人民对清朝统治有所不满，那也是中国人民自己的事，中国人民自己会去推翻它，而不是说为解放日本、西方国家去推翻。这个言而如是，如何？日本和西方在清朝时期，对吧？手上抢掠，他的出发点是为了帮助中国人民过好日子吗？完全就不是呀，对吧？哪一次外族入侵跟你没完，白来的他不是中国老百姓的，对吧？清朝出来，他们早就该下台，这是没错的。但是，和西方的传接力打起来，
闺女她毛你亏就丢了。
在开国的时候，还要为体现在自己，谁是老千人，谁是汉族百姓呢？没有，对吧？江龙海战，这是上很知名的将士们称来，他们的理学难道仅仅就是清朝的交战吗？不是的，他们也是在保护中国的老百姓。海防、台湾人都是全体中国人的，把政权的力量和民族的驱动给一支支的不远，这些事情最喜欢玩的把戏。对吧？你不能经常说啊，我们统一的是中国共产党，我们不敌中国人民。
你出嚟冇過期好油啊，冇補好油啦。做嚟冇補過期好油，好油啊！我買個咩啊？啊？我多個邊種？你呢隻瓜過得快啊！其實啲瓜過係豬麻邊仔。
啊？
儿子，你做这个是不是工作？
不是，
那你上瘾了？你今天没吃鸭肉了？
有啊，吃了。
就像放冰箱哈，
嗯
你要吃去拿哈，怕坏掉，我早上会漏。
178k damage.
对，give 一个手写平板，你手写来的所有事情，你平均来一起有在对台平板哈。所有在的是那湖水啊，那哪个？我靠！研讨会之后，梳理了琉球百年的苦难战争史，厘清啊他的那个历史脉络啊等等。今年我们也知道，美军驻冲绳境内要常常对地缘战略来分析，其实琉球群岛是好吃吗？
好吃好吃。
要换几天才好吃？跟妈妈一起住，有东西吃哈，很多东西吃哈。
别飞啊！我给你改错了。你这没给，没改错了。你飞啊，再改错了。你改错。这个毛老的一结巴。哎，对啦。毛到老呢。你咋来了老？
琉球是不是如果中国大陆能够站出来，能够挺琉球的话，我认为
我菜摊贩走来走出去，你吃如果去吃要搅拌一下哈。
我们来看到第二次世界大战，我们想到这个二次大战在1945年结束，在1943到1944年的时候，1944到1945年，尤其是1945年，这个除了1943的美军轰炸，但是1945年的时候，美军登陆就是冲绳战役啊，因为美国人加入就是要拿起世界公认日本人这个世道啊，尤其是本州，然后4国9州北海道，尤其是公州，这个日本世道，电影一样是打琉球，北岸是台湾，那这个后来说是把琉球拿下。代价有多少？然后就攻冲绳战役啊，这样这些琉球人啊死得非常的痛，因为他把妖魔化美军是恶魔魔鬼哦，不能被他抓到，被他抓到你们很惨的，就这样子恐吓这些琉球朝鲜啊，人跳悬崖爆海之的这些照片、这些记录、历史都有，牺牲传非常惨重。第三个我们就知道，琉球现在来看它的建设，还有美军去加手拉古尼基地和周边的军事设施。我们来看到的公民，干嘛做，对不对？然后住在美军上面偶发都会有一些军机事件，也造成琉球当地居民的反感。你又限制了我们开发，又造成军机事件造成我们生活上的不便，等等，就这样，所以琉球想要。
这天天都这样子，
因为他没睡好。他没睡好，你有没有睡好？
我有
啊，
我睡得太多了。
你早睡啊？
我早睡。我不知道，现在越老越会睡着了。以前年轻，我一个晚上睡2-3个钟头，我都不会困。
按错了。这其实可以拿走的分散，不热。
喂，星期三就热了，星期三又30度，星期3、星期4、星期5都很热，下个星期都很热。 儿子，你说我打给电厂，如果打一次，他会不会打呀？啊，我如果打给一次给店那边，他们会不会来？
什么一次我不知道。
我打了好多次，他才来。锅这么脏，好像没洗脸呢。那洗洗。
做来一直在开工的那抢的都苦。
我煮菜帮我煮了，走出去。你饿的时候，儿子，你听过来，我跟你讲话，你没听，要搅拌一下啊。菜都在底部。我要2-3个小时回来，灌，不然会躺在床上睡觉。
Sweet corn. 嗯。
应该熟了，关掉。熟了，连电都关掉。出发，开始可以出发，出发没关机了。
很好，很好，很好，很好。
星期天等车要等很久。
嗯。说。 Oh, fucking lag. Oh my god, another lag.